R is a vector-based language and supports vectorized calculations. Vector arithmetic in R is performed on an element-by-element basis. So what does this mean? Let's look at an example. Suppose I have two vectors of length 4, x and y. And suppose I want to calculate the sum of x and y. Now the sum of x and y is again a vector of length 4, and each entry of the sum is calculated by adding up the corresponding entries of x and y. So the first entry of x plus y, 3, is just the sum of 1 plus 2. On the other hand, the last entry of x plus y, which is 9, is the sum of 8 plus 1. In R, no loops are required to perform such calculations. If you're familiar with programming languages such as C or Java, you would have to actually construct a loop to calculate each entry of the sum of x plus y one by one. In R, this is not necessary. R can even perform vector arithmetic with vectors of different length. This sounds at first sight slightly surprising, so let's look at the rules. If R is asked to perform vector arithmetic with vectors of different length, R will recycle the shorter vector often enough so that it matches the length of the longer vector. So what does this mean? Let's look at an example. Let's go back to our vector x from before, but now let's not add it to a vector of the same length, but a vector of different length. So let's create a vector z containing the numbers 1 and 0. And now let's ask R to add up x and z. Now x is a vector of length 4, whereas z is a vector of length 2. R does not appear to be unhappy and returns us the vector 2, 3, 7 and 8. But where does that vector actually come from? Let's write it down. Let's start with x. X contains the numbers 1, 3, 6 and 8. Z, however, just consists of the numbers 1 and 0. Now, how is R meant to add up two vectors of different length? Well, that's now where the recycling rules come into play. R will simply repeat the vector z again. And now the vector z has become a vector of length 4 as well. And now if I ask for the sum of x plus z, all R has to do is add up the individual elements. So 1 plus 1 gives 2, 3 plus 0 gives 3, 6 plus 1 gives 7, and 8 plus 0 gives 8, which is exactly the result R has produced here. So what happens if the longer vector is not a multiple of the length of the shorter vector? Let's try this out. So let's redefine z such that it is a vector of length 3. Now, the length of x, 4, is not a multiple of the length of z. If I now ask R to calculate the sum of x and z, R produces a warning message saying the longer object's length is not a multiple of the shorter object's length. So what is going wrong in this example? Let's look at it again. I first write down x again as before. X consists of the numbers 1, 3, 6 and 8. My vector z, however, now consists of the numbers 1, 0 and 1. Now, the vector z is too short, so R goes back to the recycling rules and repeats z. But if R repeats z, now the vector z is too long, because the length of z is 3 and 4 is not a multiple of 3, so whatever R does, some bits will now stick out. And that's the reason why R now produces a warning message here.